No. I don't think Is it? Yeah, it's too late. Right, let's go on. I know. Thank you. Yeah, we might draw
areas, so if that expert came for whatever question comes forward, we're happy to all listen. And we could say it was all go around individually as well, and we hear the story over and over. So all that expert has to do is tell us all what the answer to that question is.
Yeah, well, we might be able to address every question tonight, and there may be some ones that we need to follow up with. There's some details we don't have available at the moment. The project is at a very, very early stage.
We understand that, and I suppose at the end of the meeting we'd like to know when you come back with the answers to any questions that we don't, that you don't have the answers to.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'll just, maybe that's, we understand from the map the areas with acres. We don't know the height of the turbines, anything like that. So they're the kind of questions that are encompassed in how big is the development.
Yeah, so the site area is about 465 hectares. We don't have the turbine height, locations at the moment, or the setback distance. The project is at a very early stage. It's a development study area outline. Over the coming months, there's a number of surveys to be done that will help us do what we do, what's called a constraint-led design. They'll all feed into the design of the wind farm, which will give us the buildable area. When we have that determined and the location of the turbines determined, we'll be back with that detail in a few months. So you're looking probably summer, autumn 2026.
Great, thank you.
What steps have you taken so far in your planning? What constraints have you already identified?
So we're just at the very, very start of this project. The key thing was, when we have the development study area, was to come out to the community. We haven't even engaged in the pre-planning consultation process yet with on Commission Clann.
You know from the area of land that you have, the hectares, how many turbines you could fit in other areas, how many turbines is it possible?
Well, each site is unique, but a lot of our other developments are built on 900 hectares, 1,000, 2,000 hectares. The most closest site to this site would be Cornafulla Wind Farm, which is 900 hectares and has 21 turbines.
So you said that you haven't done pre-planning consultation on board and all yet. So I'm assuming you're intending to make it big enough to bypass the county council.
We have to go through the pre-planning process to determine does it go to Roscommon County Council or to Onward Clann. We'll have to go through that process to determine who the consenting authority will be.
And when does that process begin?
Laura, or Declan, more detail on that one.
Well, first that would be, I think it would be next year or so, we'll be looking at submitting the planning application.
Well, that submitting the planning application, we're specifically talking about the pre-planning.
Yes,
So the pre-planning meetings.
Well, we'll be coming back to you guys with the outline of what we're planning to propose. At that stage, then we'll be taking that to the agency, all the council, going around. There's a constraints-led approach, so we're looking at how many turbines we can get in, and versus what the constraints or what the land will take.
So
That will guide what way we're going to go. You can see in order to do what's going to
so when do you think you'll be coming back to this?
So summer, autumn 2026. If there is any delay in that, our community liaison team will be out to let residents know that we will be back as soon as we thought. That's the current trajectory.
And that will definitely be prior to the planning application?
Yes, so our stages of engagement are here. Well, firstly, the team were out in the last few weeks going to houses. We're here tonight to present the study area. We'll be back with the draft area in a few months. A few months after that, then we'll be back house to house with what we call the final layout that we intend to bring forward to planning. And then we'll be back again when we actually lodge planning, going house to house to tell the community we have lodged planning, where it's lodged to, and how they can view the planning application.
Will you have a general meeting, or do you intend to go house to house just?
We'll be back house to house next time with the draft layout, and then a session like this after the team have completed house to house. And then the final layout is just house to house, and the same when we lodge planning, it's just house to house.
I'm just wondering, from community group here, would we prefer house to house, or would we prefer to have a meeting back here again in the clubhouse?
Public.
Under the wind energy development guidelines and the code of practice, we are obligated to call house to house within 1 kilometre of the project to provide information. We go to 2 kilometres with that information, so we will be doing both. We'll be going house to house with the draft layout, and we'll be back here and in the school, subject to availability, of course, with the draft layout looking at.
Can you confirm, is it the 2006 or 2019 guidelines?
So we'll be designing to the 2019 guidelines.
Okay.
And should they be finalised in the interim, we have to consider
there could be in the next year, they could publish national guidelines that are set in stone and not draft anymore, and we have to comply with that.
Yeah.
Currently 2019 are draft, 2006 are kind of well old at this stage, but the government has told us plenty of times that in the next year there will be portion of those guidelines, so we have to be compliant with that.
Yeah, so if they're published before we lodge planning, we have to ensure we're reflective of whatever guidelines are in place at that time.
Just on that, one of the local councillors was at the community meeting last night, and she said it could be a year to 2 years, and even just looking at, I see you went through reading in the Dáil this week, they were saying probably 12 months before it comes back again for view. So I think which regulations you go with are crucial, because 2006 is completely
Oh,
Yeah,
so
the
we are
turbines
citing the
slide
draft
there.
2019. This project probably won't be lodged to 2027 for planning. If the guidelines are in force by then, new ones, we will have to look at the design that we have at that stage and see if it's reflective, if there was substantial change between the draft 2019 and what effectively is brought into legislation.
the main thing with the 2019 guidelines, I'm sure people are multiple kind of knowledge of those guidelines, is the 4 times tip height, having the turbines situated 4 times tip height from any residential property. And we're going to be complying with that, okay? The 2006 one doesn't mention anything like that, but we'll be complying with the most stringent one in 2019, so yeah.
What about EU noise pollution and nuisance guidelines?
Yeah, so we'll have to design the layout in line with the legislation regarding noise limits. We'll have to comply with it.
What about the EU Habitats Directive?
So we will be completing an environmental impact assessment that will have to detail the environmental impact of the project, and that will all have to be assessed when it's submitted for planning.
What about potential UNESCO heritage assessment?
Yeah, so we also, as part of the environmental impact, have to do an archaeological culture and heritage study as well, to demonstrate that there's no significant impacts on the receiving environment.
Sorry, was Cornafulla looked at as solar, even though Blackwater, I think, is going solar, and was Cornafulla looked at for solar panels rather than wind farm?
So all our sites are assessed within the company, and this one would have been deemed suitable for wind energy, given its proximity to the national grid, the wind resource in the area, and the company has decided, along with SSE, to pursue a wind farm in the area.
What about Roscommon County Council development plan for 2022 to 2028, which says this is not a suitable area?
Yeah, so we will have to address that in the environmental impact. The County Council will be afforded an opportunity to make a submission on the planning as well. There has been instances where if the developer is able to demonstrate that the area is suitable for wind energy and it is in the national good, and that it may be consented.
What about the submission that Wind Energy Ireland already made to the County Council development plan, and they agreed with the current assessment?
I'm
and
not
they
aware of Wind
represent
Energy Ireland's
both
submission.
SSE. Yes, Wind Energy Ireland made a submission.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm not aware of it. I haven't seen it, so I can't comment on it.
Your representatives have already agreed to the current assessment.
Well, I don't work for Wind Energy Ireland.
No, but
We're
they
on behalf
represent
of,
SSE and Bornemon.
Yes, we are. Yeah, we're BnM and SSE.
Can I just clarify again the 2006 to 2019 regulations? If you get the plan application in before the new regulations are in, are you saying you're going to use the 2006 one?
No, we're designing to 2019 guidelines, so that will be what will be detailed in the planning application. When you're consented to planning, if you're consented to planning, usually the first time your condition is that you must comply with the detail as per your application, which will be the 2019 guidelines that we have.
Just back to the question about the site suitability for wind, you mentioned that one of the reasons it was deemed suitable was because of the wind potential. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, so we have a LiDAR equipment out on the bog that's assessing the suitability of the area for wind energy. So we believe that there is a good wind resource in the area that makes wind energy viable technology in this location.
Have you referred to any previous reports that might contradict that? Any county development reports that might contradict that? Have you referred to anything? Or?
I wouldn't have that detail now. We could take that away and come back to you on that one.
Rita, could I ask you a question? Also follow on from that. What studies, assessments and analysis have you carried out, surveys, etc., to determine that this is a suitable site for a wind farm?
It will be done on a desk-based process.
Can we have access to that, please?
Well, it's available, and it's Wind Atlas would be for primary, Wind Atlas for Ireland would be one of the primary resources, and then our own internal measurements that we're taking. That's what they're used to determine whether it's suitable for wind or stationary.
How are you independently verifying those internal measurements?
Well, we have our own teams that from both companies.
I'll ask again, how are you independently verifying your internal measurements?
Yeah, so we'll be bringing forward a planning application that will detail an environmental impact assessment on it. That has been prepared by independent team of consultants, ERM Consultancy, and they have their independent experts that will do all the various space surveys on the bog and surrounding environment. That will all go in as part of the application, will be assessed by either the local authority or on Commission Panol, whoever the relevant authority is, and they'll ultimately decide if this is a suitable location for the project or not.
And what other consultants, what other surveys are you doing other than the environmental impact?
On the different surveys?
Yeah, I can outline some of the key surveys that would be done for this site. So it would be breeding and wintering birds to address potential impacts to birds in the area. There would also be other ecological surveys such as mammal surveys, protected species surveys, bat surveys. Outside of the ecological surveys, you'd also be doing kind of engineering surveys such as peat probing to identify the depths of peat at the site, flood risk assessments to ensure that any situation or situating of the infrastructure is not going to cause flooding in other areas, and then the landscape and visual and noise as well.
Are you consultants already on board for those?
Yes, so surveys are ongoing at the moment. We're still in the early stages, but that's kind of part of the constraints analysis that Cornafulla was mentioning.
So earlier you mentioned the LiDAR data. What was the period of time that you used to gather that data? What was the sampling
It's
period?
gathering data at the moment, it's still in situ on the
So
site.
when did you start gathering that data?
I don't have that information available, so I have to take that one away.
Do you have an estimate?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't be.
Did you
I think
introduce
it
It's about 6 months out.
About 6 months.
Yeah.
Okay, so within 6 months you deemed that that was enough information, weather forecasting, weather situations, climate change, whatever, that was enough time as a sampling to make the project viable.
Yeah, I suppose it's on the back of, it's kind of a confirmation of what is already known about the climate and of Ireland and the Midlands, right? It's not just a snapshot in time, it's a reassurance of what we already know. You know, it's kind of building on the layers of data that we know for hundreds of years of what wind speeds are in Ireland. So it's based upon that. It's done by wind experts. None of us here actually there are wind experts, so we can find out for you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
SEAI have a website called Wind Atlas, and they have like a colour coding of all the wind speeds. You know, once you get above kind of 6.5 meters per second, you're good to go for wind. Most of the country has that, so you know, we're actually a bit higher on this site.
Okay.
In particular,
So just unclear, it was a 6 month sampling period to confirm what we already knew with the atlas and the
Yeah.
basis already.
both in desk based to like
All
measurements
right.
there.
Okay.
So the surveys will be going into the summer, is that correct? The
Yes.
surveys will continue into the summer.
Yeah.
Do SSE BnM expect this to be a profitable wind site?
Yeah, like from Board of One's perspective, they're a commercial semi-state, and our mandate is to produce energy for the country, and that was our original mandate when we started harvesting the logs, and we're continuing that, although in a different format. So our remit is to be a commercial semi-state.
So like if you're working to 2019 regs and you have to keep 4 times tip height away from a residential house, surely that constrains the usable area that you're going to do. How is the project possibly even viable economically? Who has made that decision that the project is viable and will have a profitable impact on the economy?
So
No one.
just to be clear, when you're developing the project, right, we start with desk-based analysis to see, okay, from the desk studies, from the EPA maps, the SEI maps, does this look like a good site for wind? Okay, it takes the box, okay, now we need to go down with measurements on the ground, actually see ground truth, is that good, right? We talked about having constraints, like design, we're buffering away from houses, we're buffering any sensitive habitats. We're going to go for planning and try and get a site design that suits all the constraints on the site, right? Okay, so get rid of turbine. Then we go into a grid process, and then we go to a final decision, and that this could be in maybe 2029. It's called final investment decision, where they weigh up the project economics fully fleshed out, real numbers, cost of turbines, everything, and the decision is made then whether to take it forward. But obviously, once we kind of have an idea of the site, we can kind of say, generally, wind turbine sites, you know, we can make profits on them.
Just to follow up to David's question there, sorry David. Why would you go that far? Like, surely the area is just too small if you're working within those constraints to build a profitable wind farm. Surely it doesn't make absolutely no economic sense.
No,
Why would you all that?
It's not a square piece of land, like, it's all, it's not a square piece of land. It's
No,
very-
I understand that, but I mean, the fact we're here, gives you an idea that we feel that there must be an economic potential of the site. That should be, that's really, I mean, that's what they do, that's what they do
Just
for
from looking
business.
in at the whole thing, it just doesn't.
I understand
You
that,
know, it
but
doesn't
we're
seem
telling
like-
you that
Yeah.
there is an economic potential there.
I suppose that's why we're asking these questions. We as a community are trying to understand what steps you have taken to get you to this point where you're meeting us tonight. And we heard about the desktop study, which sounds very light touch. I know computer whiz, but that to me is very basic stuff. But surely someone has analysed the economics of this situation and determined from Gordon Molan and SSE's point of view that there is an economic benefit to this. And we'd like to understand that and see how that opinion was formulated.
Yeah.
Is it true if the turbines aren't operating, you still get paid? Obviously, the turbines generate electricity when they're moving, so there's no wind, so they're not moving today, so the electricity has to be generated by gas or some other form. Are you still getting paid even though the turbines aren't moving?
That's complicated. It's a good question. It's very complicated.
I think it's a very straightforward
Oh,
question.
sorry. There's a few reasons why the turbines might not be spinning. Okay, number one, there could be an outage on the line that we're connected to, and there's another generator being connected or big large generator. Okay, so it could be an outage. If it's not within our control, that outage will get compensated in some way for it. Okay. After that, there's different things we call it dispatch down, when air grid who operates all the electricity tend to shut down the turbines. Number one, possibly because there's too much electricity on the system and the grid can't transfer it across the country. That's called curtailment. And we just generally oversupply with too much electricity to reduce that time. We get compensated for that. There's localised constraints, as in we're just looking at this neighbourhood, the lines in around the area. They can't get the power out or something for some reason because there's very, very high winds. We don't get compensated for that.
So when there's no wind, it's a simple question. If there's no wind, the turbines aren't moving. Do you
No, we
get
don't
paid?
get paid for that, no.
I think people here are really struggling to understand the rationale for saying there's an economic benefit, and particularly compared to Blackwater, all the boxes you say this here site ticks, I question whether that site doesn't tick them. So I think we'd like to see the rationale for why Cornafulla is suitable for wind farm, Blackwater is not. But another question, because this is a very heavily populated area, if you go on by the 2019 regs, there's requirements around flicker. These turbines can be seen for 8+ kilometres. You go on the height that you're currently building them. Have you factored that in about the need to shut off turbines? Is that because the desktop exercise? Have you figured all that out?
That would be major in the
Yeah, so there would be a separate shadow flicker assessment that would be done as part of that EIAR study, and that includes both modeling and a desktop study.
So there's a
And
chance.
that would analyze all basically residences that are inhabited within 2 kilometers. Beyond that, you would not suffer shadow flicker effects from turbines.
But like that and the setback distance, like this is stuff you'd imagine could be figured out in no time. Like why go to all this effort if you don't even know if it's viable because of the flicker issue and the setback issue, and that's just
Cornafulla bog has an average width of between 1,200 and 1,500 metres. If you're having to put turbines in at maybe if they're 170 metre tip height, that means you can only install turbines down the centre line of Cornafulla bog. You're never going to be able to fit enough in a length of 3.5 kilometres, and you won't get 3.5 kilometres length anyway.
You said it's economically viable. How many wind turbines are you basing this assessment on?
We don't have the number of turbines yet. We need to do
But
further
you
studies.
must have that in order to actually make it economically viable. So one.
There might be further feedback that we receive at that stage from the community, further studies ongoing that could even reduce that layout further, which has happened on multiple projects that we've developed, that we've gone on with the layout and then further expand the number of turbines back.
Sounds that you can't.
It's very much a stage process for us to get to where we can say this is the number of turbines we can launch.
So
And that's the plan to have economically viable. So you had to actually make assessments on the size of the site, and therefore how many wind turbines you can put on the site. That would determine the economically viable or not. You can answer that question.
No, I don't have that detail, no.
So has the desktop exercise to date looked at the infrastructure needed to support that? So
We get back the answer to the other people.
But a lot of your questions have led us to better questions that we hadn't thought. Like, if this is an engagement session, we couldn't be any better engaged than we are now, by everyone being in the room together, hearing the answers, rather than picking people off one by one.
Okay, what we'll do is, who's got a pen? Let's go.
So I'm sure before there was other people in here, you were here since 5:30 this evening, is that correct?
Yeah.
How much notes have you taken from people that are here?
Each one of us has our own detail sheet that we're documenting. People have asked us, and that will be fed back to the consultant on the project.
So each question was answered.
Where we had an answer, we don't have every answer available tonight.
So then if you didn't have an answer, what?
You have to ask people.
There's things that we wanted information to go back here, like the turbine heights, setback distance, etc. If there was a follow-up needed, there are details included.
Can I jump in with two more questions?
Sure.
Are you planning to use the Shannon Bridge Railway?
It's not part of this project. The project is based on the infrastructure within the site. We will be looking to see if we can incorporate amenity within the site and to see can we link to external amenities that join our site. But any planning application that is part of this project will only include what's in the boundary of the Cornafulla.
just a follow-up question on the roads there. I know you've got loads of experience in different projects and you've mentioned it. Have you ever worked on a project where roads are impassable?
Well, I haven't worked on the construction side of it. What do you mean impassable, that we couldn't go down that lane?
Yeah, as in it's flooded. You cannot. It's flooded, like there's partly roads supporting this bog now that no one can drive down.
Not that I'm aware of that we've come
Right,
across
so-
during the construction phase. No, we've never had an issue that we had to, not that we couldn't bring the components into site or the construction material.
So you were here 2 weeks ago, we what, 2 or 3 roads?
All 3 roads.
All 3 roads.
All 3
2
roads.
weeks ago, so we're supporting this for all flooded.
Yes, so that law will have to be assessed to the environmental impact.
And that's a follow-up question, is it going to be multi-seasonal?
The construction.
No, the assessment. Is the assessment going to be?
Yeah.
But the assessment now should be looking at winter, particularly for this area, it has to be winter and then summer. Because there's partly roads impassable. No tractors, no nothing, it's not safe to put on it.
Yeah, there's a flood risk assessment on the bridge.
So has that already been done?
No.
It hasn't.
That's part of the environmental assessments.
And it'll be studying the floods on the road.
Pardon?
You'll be studying the floods on the road. I'm not talking about water levels on land, I'm talking about flood levels on the infrastructure, the roads.
Or the infrastructure we're going to build, is it?
No, on the actual roads. On the roads, right. You get the point, like, you cannot, there's roads here now, you cannot pass.
There's no point doing it next July.
Yeah, there'll also be a traffic and transport assessment that has to assess the suitability of the local roads, regional roads to actually get to site.
Oh no, you understand that, the width and all
Yes,
that.
that
But you
all
can take all that, you can take all that into account. But at the end of the day, there's some roads you will not pass through.
There's an important clarification on Amanda's question here. So are you saying that there is no consideration will be given to using the railway line from Shannon Bridge to transport turbines to site? Is that ruled out?
We've never brought them by
Okay.
rail.
No, just something to clarify. So it would be road only is the
Yeah,
only
that's
option.
the standard practice.
How will this development affect the Clann Greenway cycleway that we're talking about?
We're going to have to liaise with what's done with the council on that. It should be complementary. We should link in, like we can be providing amenity, the tracks that are used to bring the turbines and set them up, they will be using amenity in the future as well.
And with this project called water pollution, and how is it going to affect spring wells?
So, water management is extremely important on all construction sites. They have to be dealt with a temporary, drainage design and a permanent drainage design. So all the water has to be obviously collected, has to be collected in
Very much a stage process before we have different information available.
Would it not be fair to say that the road access is something that could stop the project from the very get-go? If there's, wind turbines, there's a lot, if the roads don't allow wind turbines to come in, and you might need to buy land off somebody or come up with something like that. If that can't be achieved, then it can't be done. You would
Yeah,
think
that'll all
so.
have to be
But
looked
that'll
at.
be the very first thing
No.
you look at.
No, that'll all be looked at over the coming months. So typically we try to utilise motorways. There may be
Oh,
a
yeah.
requirement that we have to buy third-party land and they have to do an easement to actually get into the site, to turn into the site. We don't know that information yet. Because we don't
But you do know the motorway doesn't bring you to the site.
We do know
There's
that, but
local roads.
we don't know the height of the turbine, the blade lengths that we're proposing, anything here, and that all has to feed into the study for us to go ahead and then do a sweat path analysis to determine if there are any constraints along the haul route that we need to acquire third-party land and to facilitate that. So that all needs to be looked at. We'd have to get consents. If we don't get consents, that could hamper the project.
Well, BnM, just to finish that point, they do refuse collection in the area, and I know that they refuse to go in some of those roads because their refuse lorries can't get in. So if they can't get in, you'd imagine a wind turbine lorry, which we've all seen, is going to struggle. So you think that would be the very first thing?
Yeah, so we're no longer is involved in the waste collection business. We don't have that company, it's been sold. But all
But
of
point's valid though.
absolutely, and all of that is going to be looked at. Then have to look at all that when we know the size of turbines, size of blade lengths we're proposing, sweat path analysis as part of the transport and traffic management plan will all have to be done in the coming months for us to determine how we're actually going to get into site. We don't know that detail.
Have you engaged with any landowners yet to try and purchase land?
No, this is the first series. Was the team going around to the house, let people know about the project, and then we're here tonight.
If access isn't got, is there any land going to be CPO to farmers or?
No.
That's definitely,
No,
you're definite on that one.
We don't see pure land.
For access.
No, absolutely not.
So apart from the wind turbines, a lot of concrete has to go in. So say a maximum height of a turbine, I believe you have to go 60 feet down for foundation. Is that true?
60 feet, no. You're talking about you try and get underneath and to dig out the peat.
Yeah.
There's soft clay underneath the peat. It's not fair. It's not good enough to take that out as well. So
What's the maximum depth you might have to go?
it could be anywhere between 4 meters, could be 6 or 7 meters deep.
And what sort of area? What sort of amount of concrete would have to go into that area to fill that hole?
I can give an estimate only because I'm an engineer and I've looked at this before, but you're talking about hundreds of meters of cubes of.
How many lorry loads is that?
Look,
You're looking at, let's say, 100 birds.
100 lorry loads of
That's going
not good for the environment.
Yeah, well,
This is just for one turbine.
yeah, but the specifics of this project have to be worked out.
So I guess as a follow-on to that question, this is a sustainable project that's been proposed as such. There's a lot of concrete, a lot of fossil fuels are burned to achieve this. Peat has been dug out of the site that people can't use anymore, for various reasons, various arguments for that. How long is it going to take for you guys to offset the carbon side of that cost? When does the firm become profitable for you guys? And at what point have you paid for that carbon offset?
Yeah, so as part of the EIR, we do have to do a carbon payback cycle. On our larger scale developments, or more recent ones that we've submitted for planning, the carbon payback has been about 2.2 to 2.5 years.
And as part of that, it's obviously, if this wasn't happening, like that bog has been over pumped. There's ESB lines going to over pump it, so it's already started to naturally re-wet itself. And obviously, it was a fully functional bog until it was industrialised. Do you consider that as well? Because you're going to have to leave the bog, as I understand, completely drained to put the turbines in. So not only is it no longer a carbon sink, it's a carbon emitter because it's all exposed. Am I right in saying? Is that factored in?
The bog doesn't have to be fully drained to put in the wind farm. We'll have to build in wettish conditions. It'll be a bit tricky, but yeah, we don't have to keep it pumped to the same degree it would have been during harvesting. That's not required.
So the infrastructure, turbines, roads, hard stands, everything typically take up about 4 to 5% of the land bank. The rest of the land bank then is available for the likes of amenity use or rehabilitation works can be done. There typically is a draft rehabilitation plan that goes in as part of the planning application for our projects that outlines the rehabilitation works that would commence after construction of the development.
Can Cornafulla bog ever be fully restored under the PCAS scheme if this goes ahead?
It's not one of the sites that's listed for PCAS.
Why was it not a site listed for PCAS?
I don't have that information, that's a different team, but we can take that query away.
But just to say, like, the wind farm doesn't prevent rehabilitation in the future. It's only 4 to 5% of the bulb, like, it's not preventing those, like, you can re-wet the bulb. There's examples where you want to have Clann wind farm, where the wind farm was built and the rest of the bulb was precast then around it, and it was successful, there was no issue, so.
Katrina, you're 12 years with the company. How many projects have you been involved with that were at an advanced stage that were unsuccessful?
Any project I've been involved in that we've submitted for planning have not been refused. They've been consented.
So how many, what can you name those?
There's from Green, Durlock, Timahoe, we've only built 3 of them. We have numerous projects at pre-planning, about probably 10 or 12, if I'm correct, that we have left to lodge for planning. We have, sorry, 4, but I've wind farm is consented as well. And then we have one project with on commission and all that at the moment as well. So we have about probably 20 projects in total with working across.
And you have 4 that have been...
4 that have gone through built and are now operational. Yeah. Typically, like when we come out to consult with communities at this stage of the project, we're minimum 7 years away from the project being built and operational.
So Clann, then how long did it take Clann from this stage to when the turbines
Yeah,
were
so
complete?
in Clann wind farm we started consultation in 2015, that entered operational in 2023. In Durlock we started consultation in 2017, and that just finished construction in 2024.
And are you part of the project team for the Ben Air?
Yes, we all are.
You're all part of the Ben Air as well?
Yes.
Sorry, can I just ask, on the biodiversity and ornithology area, are you going to be liaising with the NPWS with your findings?
Yes, we will.
If you're saying it's going to take a number of years to be developed, I know there's new legislation going through the Dáil at the moment. If that's enacted after you get plan permission, do you have to abide by the new legislation before it's commenced, or are you allowed to go with what was there before?
So it's whenever the decision is made by the planning authority, that's whatever applies at that stage is what we have to.
So if new legislation comes in before you start on site, you can still go by the old, you don't have to reconsult. So
sorry, no, the point would be the time that the commission make the decision. They'd have to make the decision based on the guidelines that are approved at the time.
And they don't retrospectively.
Yeah, if they changed after we got granted permission, we wouldn't have to go back and redesign retrospectively.
it's a race against time then, basically.
Well, we'll be designing to the 2019 guidelines in terms of setback. So that's 4 times tip height. So that's quite an extensive setback in terms of the European context as well. So we don't foresee it being granted to, we don't foresee a decision on that.
Would you like to live 800 metres from a 200 metre turbine?
I wouldn't mind it.
You wouldn't mind?
I wouldn't mind at all.
What's the setback distance in SSE's home territory of Scotland?
In Scotland, SSE, like in Scotland, there's no defined setback distance. It's usually something around 500 metres, and then you have to take into effects from noise, landscape. So it's basically a scientific, each turbine in each house is kind of decided a project by itself.
So what has been the average setback distance for SSE turbines in Scotland?
I don't know.
We can find that out for you.
Yeah.
Still know.
Would you be surprised to know that it's usually in excess of 2 kilometres?
Yeah. I suppose, look, that's in Scotland, it's a different kind of housing profile than it would be in Ireland. You know, in Scotland, they have vast estates where there's no houses. For miles and miles and miles, that's the way that the land is owned. It's a bit different in Ireland. Like, it is quite difficult. I know we're coming to you in the community and you're saying we have houses nearby, but there's actually not loads and loads of space around Ireland that doesn't have any near neighbours. And the bogs in a way are actually unique in that way that there's a vast expanse of land that has got houses on it.
So what offshore alternatives has SSE been looking at?
So I suppose the big one is Bank, that's in the public. The offshore one, that's in the planning, the commission at the minute, that's no decision made.
What auctions have SSE actually applied for in the government's auction schemes for offshore?
we haven't applied for. Didn't get the words. Yeah, no.
So what is the total systems cost for AirGrid and other generator suppliers to compensate for SSE's current and planned projects?
I can't answer that. I don't think I know the answer to that.
So what ratio of the systems cost is SSE paying for current projects?
That would be part of the transmission system operator charges that energy providers.
The total systems cost for compensating for having a non-synchronous wind or any renewable energy.
We don't have that information. We're here to talk about this particular project, the proposed Cornafulla wind farm, and we don't have that information.
So what's the planned dispatch ratio for this project?
We don't have that detail.
Several questions there that you're finding out that.
Yeah.
Well, in fairness, they are quite detailed and he has them ready, so we'll be able to perhaps submit those to us when they're quite detailed. A lot of guys here hopefully are making some notes for it. But you'll be able to, that's kind of a fairly
Sorry, just on the
technical
access
one that we can
points.
actually get the answer for it. Okay?
On the access points, most people know here, it's probably only going to go in on 2 roads. And probably 2 roads that it can only go into that area, you know. So both of them are bog roads into it. So I don't know with the capability, whether you're able to bring in so many 20, what did you say, 121 turbines, 2100 roads of concrete.
Yes, we'll have to assess all that, and we'd have to do road condition, pre-construction.
Just to be clear, we never said 21 turbines, just to be absolutely clear. Sorry, just in case it wasn't mentioned.
Well, somebody mentioned 20 or 21.
No, that was in regards to the size. The size, I was giving an example of the size, was twice the size of this. We will have to do road condition survey, pre-construction and post-construction. If there is upgrades required on a road to facilitate the delivery of construction materials or turbine components, that will be part of the project.
Does potential damage to properties be considered as part of that? A lot of properties right on the very edge of the road, boggy road. People are at the meeting last night were saying that they already feel their house vibrating if there's a big load going through. So we're probably talking in excess of 1,000 lorry loads going by some of the other projects you've done. Is that a consideration?
Yeah, vibration would be assessed as part of the noise assessment that would accompany the EIA. So it's a noise and vibration assessment, and that would take into account both construction phase and operational phase. The operational phase is typically the one people focus on more for wind farms, but it will also be considering construction as part of that EIA process and whether it could impact.
Can I just jump in there? You said it would be a noise vibration, but the body itself vibrates if the truck goes by. Currently, will you be assessing the homes beforehand, and will you be assessing the homes afterwards, or cracks or any other kind of subsidence or movement?
No, I do not believe that's part of the assessment criteria. It would be
Well,
part
you
of
clearly haven't been in the area at all then, because 2 cows could walk by you and you will shake on that road. Like,
Have you been up there?
It would be a scientific assessment.
Have you been up there?
Okay. I have not been up there.
Yeah.
Our team has been up there.
You've answered the question.
You've answered the question, yes.
You don't have to.
It seems for a lorry to pass any of them roads that you're on about now, we're all the kids around that area, and there's a lot of houses very close to them roads. They're on boggy side. If you pass by with a tractor and trailer, it vibrates everything around the house, particularly some of the houses. It vibrates everything. What's going to happen to them houses with all these lorry loads of concrete, fill, and everything that you're proposing to bring in there?
they will crumble, lads. If any of you have just walk around the area, spend some time around the area, if there's that much industrial equipment going up and down those roads, those houses will crumble. And you'll have another pyrite scandal or whatever on your hands. That's, I mean, the most simple man on the street could assess that. You're spending huge resources, engineers, all you guys, on a site that really anyone that could look at it would say it's not viable. It's not viable from any point of view. Surely, like, I have no problem with wind farms. I think we should be aiming to be 100% wind generation country, absolutely, what suits the country, but in the proper locations. And I think your expertise and your input should be put into other areas that would be more beneficial, surely, because the area you're going to get to work with, it just does not make sense in my head how that area could possibly be viable.
Yeah,
It just doesn't.
I hear your point, but we do have multiple sites with projects across the country. As part of the joint venture with SSE, there's 8 projects proposed, and Cornafulla have been one of them. So it's not just a case that's located here. We have projects in everywhere: Westmeath, Offaly, Longford, Roscommon, Kildare, Tipperary, so there is numerous sites across the country.
Like solar farm there is a completely different venture. It still produces power for you. It doesn't create the hassle or the problems.
What we would say is, look, this comes up quite a lot. People say, why not solar? When you look at the numbers of the land, the amount of land that's affected by putting in solar panels, right? We've just kind of said, like, on these bogs, the footprint of the infrastructure is about 4 to 5%. You could multiply that by 10 for a solar farm to get the same amount of power today. Unfortunately, we're in a windy country that doesn't have the best solar out. I'm not saying solar isn't good, I'm just saying when we see that there's opportunity to put turbines on a site, it's just more advantageous.
This is you to stay back from all the properties that you have to. You can solar farm them a hell of a lot closer. They're not an inconvenience to people on top of them.
The wildlife, the flooding. You do understand these are huge historical issues in this area. Those studies will be done by consultants employed by your private entity, correct?
Yes,
I think that's a
very
important
governance that was developed by the government here, which is in.
And we have to demonstrate to planning authority that we have.
There's no independent consultants decide or overview the assessments that are done on the flooding and wildlife.
Just to clarify, the Commission for all that, which we call them or Roscommon County Council, they're the ones that undertake the EIA. They undertake an environmental impact assessment. They take the information.
Based on the information that your private consultants give them.
Yes,
correct.
But they have to undertake that independently.
But they just review it.
That's the planning process.
No, they undertake, they don't do their own
EIA.
They would have specialists, they'd have ecologists.
You do understand the
bypass, when you go to a local county council, you can go to a board of Clann.
We're also you understand this? These guys work as independent consultants. They don't do what we tell them. They don't say, they give us the black and white what the actual answer is, not what we want.
We're usually the bearer of bad news for SSE and board.
So, no, it might seem hard to swallow, but that's what actually happens.
Is it the same consultants you use on project after project?
No, there's multiple consultants we use across the country. So when we go on a project, we have to go to tender, and so it's based on the resource procurement process. So we work with multiple consultants across the country, and that's the process we have to go through.
How will the proposed development be of enduring economic benefit to the community, and for how long?
Yes, so typically wind farms at the moment have a lifespan, or a planning lifespan of 35 years typically is what you seek consent for. So during that time there will be commercial rates that will be paid to the local authority and hopefully reinvested back into provision of services within the local area. Community benefit funds are part of large-scale development. There is guidelines set out now by the department under a rule book if you end up with the auction process outlining exactly how community benefit funds have to operate. Now, the exact community benefit for this project we don't know at this stage because it's so far away from operation. We don't know what the guidelines might be at that moment in time. There will be a small amount of jobs in operational. It absolutely by no means replaces the jobs that would have been there during Cornafulla's time.
Enduring economic benefit, like it's about €2 per. Is that already a ratio?
The current community fund is based on €2 per megawatt hour. That's been in place since 2021.
And the last question, like, is there could you just ballpark what a yearly amount of that was, and then do you tally that up at the end of the year?
Yeah, so there's a whole set of guidelines it's a rule book now that was published in May 25 how this has to operate, so they don't run calendar year. The funds are now calculated based on the output of the wind farm based on when you actually start commercial operation. That's to 1 year is your first anniversary. You take the megawatt hours, multiply that by 2 to get your community fund. Now, under the community fund, there's different parameters, and that 10% of the community fund can be used towards administration costs. A lot of developers hire a third-party administrator to manage the funds. Under the current rulebook, houses within 1 kilometre receive €1,000 per annum for 15 years, and that's just a flat payment, it's not index linked. Houses between 1 and 2 kilometres, there's a new formula the department has calculated based on your exact meter from the nearest turbine that the houses receive annually between €500 and €999, so that's a different band from 1 to 2. And then the rest of the community money goes towards community groups, scholarship programmes, not-for-profit, social enterprise projects in community. And all that information is all published then on the Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland to have a national database or benefit register, so it's all publicly available. Where the money has gone, how it was spent, right down to the last cent, is all available.
Just a question. Clann Technologies is currently on the list to be one of the world's top monastic sites, and these turbines will be visible to the Clann Technologies.
Yes, there's Clann away.
It will be consulting extensively with National Monitoring Service around
Yeah, we also have to do a series of post-montages to demonstrate what the proposed development is.
It's they're working on 4 complete projects. We've seen many projects throughout the country. If you come back a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later to talk to the householders that are within 2 or 3 kilometres.
We're constantly engaging with the householders and working with community liaison officers on contact every year with them in terms of your labour funds, community benefit funds, and that's with all houses. It's not a case of going to the 5 or 6, we're constantly contact with all.
On the photovoltaic, could you provide an accurate 3D model with renderings and eye-level animation plots?
Something we have to have the GIS team. Once we kind of settle on the we have to provide that.
What are you looking for again?
The GIS rendering.
Like a 3D rendering where we could look at a screen and we could look at what it looks like from a particular depth.
Yeah, we're working on something on a different project.
You can turn around and view.
We stand at home at low noise, have a look at it. So photomontage is another technology.
So yeah.
No, we're looking at that now for another project, trying to develop that for another one ahead of this project to see what that information looks like for the forest community. So it is something we are looking at and see.
Do not have benefits for how often they're on as opposed to off. Because they're not live sort, we just on instead.
No, I don't know that.
So I pass them quite often.
Like typically, like capacity, if you look at the Energy in Ireland report, 2024, the 2024 report, which is based on 2023 data, which was published last December, the new one is due out soon. The average capacity factor of wind energy in Ireland up until 2023, a few more years, 2023 was 28%. So the new report is due out, it's usually around Christmas week, the new one comes out from, I think it's SCI that published it, and that will have the updated capacity factor in Ireland, the average capacity. But that takes all wind farms across the entire country.
You mentioned about one of the reasons it's proposed for here is because of the connection to the grid. So obviously you're going to have to either run overland or underland cables to the grid. Where are you going to connect to the grid? And
so that hasn't been determined yet. That hasn't been determined. That they have to look at all that yet as well. Where is there connectivity on the grid and where is there capacity as well?
Can you go through some sort of CPO process to force people to allow you to put?
No, it's not something we've ever done.
Can air grid?
Just go back to an earlier statement there. When you wrote the statements was exposed to the grid, was selected. So that suggests that you've actually done some sort of an assessment.
No, because there's a grid line, you can see it on the maps, there is a grid line in the area, but where exactly we can connect into, where is there a substation that might have availability, where is there planned substations in about 5-7 years time by the time of this project, that all has to be looked at to see where is there potentially. But ultimately, AirGrid will determine where we connect in. If this project is presented, they will ultimately determine where we connect into the grid.
Yeah, but there's already existing lines there going from the grade back into the pumps, isn't there? Three-phase pumps.
Yeah, but they'll have to check, they'll have to do studies, see is there capacity on them lines. There could be other projects ahead of us in the queue, you know, and infrastructure, generating has to get commissioned or decommissioned, and availability on the grid. That all has to be looked at.
Is the work on the air grid side of the system, is that part of the strategic planning, that
Sorry, what was
SSE?
that?
The work that air grid would have to do, substation and overhead or underground lines, is that part of the strategic planning application?
So what happens as part of the strategic application is we'd be outlining the infrastructure that we're proposing to build as part of this. So that would be if we need to build our own substation, or we need to connect into existing overhead lines, etc. That would be looked at through our planning application.
You know, everything we ask about is like a lot of the questions. To me, it seems like you're saying you haven't looked into it yet, and it's almost like you're giving a sense of hope that you might not bother with it. How many projects that have got this far, where you've had public consultations, have you decided then to not actually bring forward yourselves with a proposal?
There's been none that I've been involved in. We have reduced the scale of projects.
So it's guaranteed to happen then?
Well,
It's guaranteed that you're going to put forward,
it's
regardless of what
already
you're...
large plan application.
Okay. So it seems very odd then that so many key points, access, grid connection, the wind speed, the setback, flicker, if you haven't looked at these things, it just doesn't add up, yet every project goes forward. I'm missing something.
It's very early stages, and what we like to do is come out to the community and tell them we're looking at this area. In like years ago, we would have come out just when we had the turbine infrastructure actually done, and we felt, and the community felt that that was too late to be engaging at that stage of the project, that a lot was developed. So I know it seems like we don't have a lot of answers, and we genuinely do not have them because we're at such an early stage of the project. There's a long way to go on this until we're back with draft layout, the final layout, and then actually submitting the project. It is very early stages.
So what is the purpose then of this feedback, session? So you obviously you've seen lots of questions. There's not a lot of notes being taken, but the point of what's going to be done with this, all these questions and feedback?
Yeah, so all the feedback is...
Because, no, just to finish the question, because it looks like you have so many other different things to do. It's just going to be kind of stuff on the carpet.
No, so all the feedback that we gather from sessions, through door to door, through the feedback forms that are coming in, they're all reviewed and shared with the project team, the consultants, and the information is fed back into the project design. We've had instances in the past saying, just off the top of my head, like people have come into consultation when we had a draft layout and they said, oh, I think that turbine is too close, my house is actually there, and I just started constructing it or something. We didn't have that house marked at that time. So, that feedback is brought back to the design team to look at that. It may result in us knocking out a turbine because the house is there or not. There's different scenarios that will feed into the project. We've had instances where people have come to us and said, consultation, we don't want amenity access on our road. We've had that back into the team, we took out the amenity. We've had instances that people came and said, that site for a substation, it floods, you need to do further studies, look at it. We've done that, we've changed the substation location.
Yeah, but
so it's not a box tick exercise.
That sounds like feedback based on you presented a plan. You have no plan here yet.
Yeah.
So it's
a stage process.
Happening to this.
I understand the frustration. I know.
No, yeah, you're right. I might sound a bit frustrated, but the point I'm trying to make.
And it makes perfect sense what you're saying as well. But there's also the other flip side of the coin is we turn up with too much information. People think it's a done deal, and so.
At a regular stage. So will this feedback be incorporated? So the question for me how would they get fed back into the various different assessments? That's the question.
Yeah, so they're fed back to the project team and consultants. So, for example, like earlier, there was one person I was talking to, and subsequently others, and they asked us for a photo montage from Clann noise. We've asked Ian, can he provide that for us? That will go onto the list and to bring back to the community when we come back in the summer or autumn will be after this.
Same with the question on vibration as well. I can take that back to people who are on my team who are noise specialists and vibration specialists and mention that to them, and they can take that into account as they undertake their surveys.
Okay.
It's like, is there any, I suppose the thing I'm wondering is there anything that's a red line for you? Because if every single project that you've come out to consult the communities on has gone forward for planning, like, you're kind of, again, it feels like you're filling us with hope here, but if every single project has gone forward, then is there anything that would stop you bringing it forward?
Look, it's our intention right now to bring the project forward into plan.
May I ask, at the moment, coming in here and listening to this, I didn't hear all the questions. This nearly feels like fait complete. You're going to go ahead with this, whatever is said here tonight. How long does that process take, and where are you in that process? So you've done this somewhere else before. Did it take 18 months, 2 years, 3 years?
Yeah. So
where are you
So this is the very start of the process. It typically takes us 18 months from when we're here to lodge it. Now that's typical. We have application. We have projects that we launched prior to this, or in like 22, 23, 24. They're still not going into plan. It's not a case we're here today and this is going to plan next week. There's a stage process in this, so it's minimum 18 weeks or 18 months lower. If I'm correct, before we lodging our plan application for this. When we lodge planning, there's a new Renewable Energy Directive 3 that's been enacted that sets out now, if this ends up in the board, the project a decision must be given in 52 weeks on a planning application. So that's at least a year then that you have to kind of go through the planning process. So that's what we're at now.
Does that decision include objections?
The submission period, yes. Then after that, there's a period where you have to do all your tenders, procurements, contractors, they all need to be lined up. That could take the books of another year probably. And then typically at the moment there's different auctions that companies have to build in to sell the power to. You have to wait for them windows to open so you can actually submit your bid price into the auction. That takes another period of time because it depends when you get consented. You have to have everything lined up before you can actually bid into the auctions. Then
I understand that whole process. How long from today would we see the minimum?
Yes, so then the construction period is 18 to 24 months typically. So you're looking at minimum 7 years. Minimum.
Before a windmill goes up?
Before it's operational. Usually they start to erect in about 6 months. The first year of construction is the roads, the turbine foundations, everything. Then you erect the turbines, and that takes a period of time. You try to do that during the summer because you need low winds to actually be able to lift the turbines into position. And then that takes about 6 months, and then they start to
the impact on the area in relation to the development of the amenities that we have here, and houses and families. In 7 years' time, our population is going to look quite different to what it does today. So what future planning are you going to put in place to address those concerns? Because once you bring it to planning, it's nearly like they complete. However, who are the parties that are involved that finally look at all those plans and say, yes, we're ready to submit it? Is it just your own organisation, or are there politicians and local representatives involved?
Yes, so there's a formal process now with this project going forward. You have to go to the board, do a pre-application with the board if we meet that threshold, or Scotland County Council. They're obliged to go out to all the national stakeholders, that would be the MPWS, Ishka Éireann, OPW, National Monuments. They have to go out and they have to feed back to the board and say, this is our opinion on the project, this is how we'd like the project to be scoped, this is what we want to address in the environmental impact assessment, and this is what we're concerned about.
So, just sorry to interrupt you there, it would be worth our while to develop a group locally here so that we could feed into that.
That would be for statutory stakeholders, so that would be like governmental bodies and kind of environmental associations, like that would be kind of related to the state. Once the planning is submitted, there is a period for local groups and local people in public to submit and put in their...
A group has already been formed and met last time. There's over 100 members always today, so we'll look to get you.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Sorry, someone's talking. Just want to ask, based on your EIR or EIA report there, the last sentence says there, the EIA will comprise the following as a minimum. Does that mean that they all have to tick the boxes for this to go ahead?
Yeah. We have to demonstrate that under all of those disciplines, traffic, shadow flicker, noise, air, soil, hydrology, hydrogeology, heat, all that kind of stuff, we have to demonstrate that it's not going to have significant effects, and there'll be a standard developed by the EPA on a European national level of how we describe those effects. and how the sensitive the environment is and what the magnitude of the work you're going to do is related to that.
But the problem is that my understanding is that BnM and SSE will get a minimum payment for even when the wind turbines aren't running, which means then it's in your interest to say flicker's not an issue. You know, so what independent?
However, it's not us saying there's no flicker there.
Well, it's
part of the
consultant that you paid.
And it's based on specific guidance that isn't developed by us. It's either legislative guidance or developed by government bodies. And then if there is shadow flicker detected at any dwellings above a certain amount of time per day, there are ways to mitigate that either through not having the turbines or having the turbines curtailed at certain points of the day, so shadow flicker.
Well, that's all published, right? In the area.
That will be included.
You can get your own experts can look at it and make a submission on it if you think it's not correct. So it's all open, transparent.
Just on that, just that one asking for
We're saying that they have all those things to get through. How do you get all your projects through?
No.
Multiple different teams. We have multiple different teams. There's multiple different teams.
To pass all those things.
Yeah.
How are you to pass them all and all your projects?
We're not.
You said you were.
That's Cornafulla. So
Cornafulla
has been very refused and very good. But
we could get refused in the morning for some projects. But there's the ones that we have submitted. That's all I can comment on. I can't base anything hypothetical.
Just to finish up the question I was going to ask with the flicker, because you said you'll engage with those two kilometres. Now my understanding is that the flicker can be possible for a further distance. There are hundreds of houses within 2 kilometres or slightly above 2 kilometres. Are you going to do a flicker assessment every single house? And what is the furthest distance someone has ever been affected by flicker?
So shadow flicker assessment is done as part of the development, where you identify houses that could potentially be impacted and set out mitigation measures. If shadow flicker were to occur when the wind farm is actually operational, the first protocol for the member of the public is back to our community liaison team and feeds it back to our operations team.
Take turbines down. What if it's?
Sorry, can I finish my point? And we work with the residents to try and eliminate that, and we have done that on sites where we've gone back and said, you know, we've got a call from Joe Bloggs from experience in shadow flicker. Our team has gone out and investigated that. If it is an issue, mitigation measures have been put in place where we have shut down the turbine to make sure during certain periods of time to make sure shadow flicker doesn't occur.
But the site is, Athlone is north of the site, so the sun is going to be coming from the south, which means that you've got hundreds and hundreds of houses that I think could potentially be affected. How is that viable, and what is the distance that you potentially assess? How far will you go to assess whether?
So we're too early in the stages at this point to say that for sure, but it uses an industry standard modeling software to basically identify and evaluate shadow flicker from the final design that would occur within a certain area based on the model. And that model is based on science that is approved across the industry.
Can I ask a question about that? So if your model is based on 100% sunshine all year round, or is it a statistical analysis that takes kind of cloudy days into consideration? And actually, are you just going to give us a statistical amount and say, well, potentially we will estimate flicker based on a statistical model rather than actual? And so will people be told, well, you're only getting whatever percent flicker. That's below our threshold, so we don't care about you, even if that affects you.
So there are standards on that. I can ask our shadow flicker team and get those details for you.
Yeah.
Just to ask the question, how far do you actually consider though? What distance do you consider?
I need to speak to our shadow flicker guys. I'm not a shadow flicker expert myself.
You have 4 complete, 4 successful. You said there's 20 in progress. Okay, 20?
We've got 20 projects in around different stages, yeah.
And
that's not just one.
Are there any of those 20 that are in progress that's taken longer than the 7 years? Or at a phase where some of them are going on, you're in the middle of the project and you're currently at year 8 or year 9?
Yeah, there is, yeah.
And why are they at year 8 or year 9?
There's different reasons. So we launched one project in 2015. We were almost ready to launch it in 2017, and then the preferred draft approach for wind energy guidelines came out. So we had to stop, pause, review our design, see where we, in line with the new preferred draft report, we actually redo some elements of the sign, bring that back to the community and start consultation again. So there are some impacts that can impact us.
So some of the 20 that are in progress at the moment, we are encountering difficulties with.
Well, not difficulties, but just there's challenges, there's
But
different things that can crop up.
four
Yeah.
being successful, but there is the possibility that some of them, 20, will not be successful.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, there's more projects refused than consented when you win every project in Ireland at the moment.
Before you,
There's nothing guaranteed.
Yeah.
Before you complete it, have you gone back to the population of that area for customer satisfaction? How happy are you with it?
No, well, we're in contact, we haven't done a customer satisfaction survey, but we are in constant engagement with them through our community benefit funds, through our near neighbour programs, through our amenity
And are they happy?
locations. Yeah, probably. Like, you're not going to please everyone's not going to be happy. There is some people who genuinely don't like them, and that's fine. Like, and we're not asking everyone in the community to accept these. We understand people have concerns, and
we started them about the value of our houses.
No, we haven't. No. But there has been houses bought, and some of them built around our developments.
Well, I've seen a report in the independent body, can't find it right now, but it's done in Ireland. It says houses within a kilometre of the wind turbines have lost 22% of their value.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, well,
that's
not
a factual report done
that
on
we
sale
see.
prices.
And if you share the details of the report with me, I can bring that back to our team.
Does that factor into any step in your process, the impact this has on the community?
No, so as part of the development, we'll be looking at the setback distance from the house, make sure we're compliant with that, reduce
So financially for us?
shadow flicker. No.
It doesn't matter.
No, they're
Sorry, I think some people are anxious to leave, but before anyone goes, I know you said you go back house to house. I think people would find, I'd like to hear from people, would you like this forum as well? You can go back house to house.
We're doing both.
Yeah.
We're doing both.
Who's the community liaison person you mentioned at the very start?
Shane and Lean are our community liaisons.
And do we get contact details?
All their details, well, Shane's details are in the booklet, Lean's are in the project email account, get both of them. Yeah.
Have you done any long-term studies on the insect and bird population of previous projects?
So as part of all our projects, and part of the environmental impact assessment, we have to do
No,
look into our breeds for our
have you done long-term
Yes.
subsequent?
Yeah, the councils are usually put an obligation to do mortality checks for the years after you install the turbines, but people will go regularly with actual
Like a
separate
couple
dogs.
of years, how many years would it take to destroy an insect and bird population?
It would be pretty obvious if there was issues with birds, it would be pretty obvious if there was issues.
I guess a wind farm in Donegal chopped up 3 white-tailed eagles. Wind farms still active.
Yeah, I can't comment on that, but I suppose.
As part of the EIR, we do have to do a collision risk modelling assessment, and below that is the design as well.
Just to be clear, the reason we're starting this now early with loads of work to do with bird surveys and everything like that, like, there'll be people out mostly on the bog, looking at flight lines, reporting how birds are there, looking for habitats where they're roosting. We probably won't go to planning with 4 years of that data, and all that's going to have to be modelled, and we're going to have to design turbines to avoid any common flight paths. Just design like that.
4 years of data?
I think by 2027 we'll have almost 4 years of data.
Are there any
An
data
independent body like Port Watch Ireland to this sort? Or are you any employ somebody?
So are there any data sets that you deliberately exclude? So Biodiversity Ireland?
We wouldn't be excluding any data, we take every piece of desktop study that we can get.
Because they have records going back over 20 years.
There's a lot of questions that you weren't sure of the answers, and thank you for all the information that you did give us. Could we forward?
Absolutely, I was
the
going to say that.
questions?
So there's a lot of these questions are quite specialist, you know, and they are dedicated people in our organisation to be able to answer those for you.
Just on the house value piece, I don't think it's good. It's not for your impact, but it's for everyone's awareness. It was the Centre for Economic Research on Inclusivity and Sustainability that did that report in 2023. So that's where it showed house price value dropping over 20%. It's not going to impact, I'm sure. I guess you don't take that into consideration as part of your project. So yeah.
But the industry would have a different view to Gael University with a recent report saying something similar, other industry sites, we'll say.
So you just look at the ones you...
No, I'm just saying that there's other contradictory views on it.
Well, that's not contradictory, that's based on house sale data, that's a fact. That's
empirical.
Well, look, send us on the report, we'll have a look at it, and we'll
I'm just making
reply
it
to
aware
it.
of the room.
And there is alternative views to that. There are alternative.
So my concern here is you're prepared to accept any information that's provided to you. What responsibility do you take on the research you do yourselves? Because I'm not confident that if you're just based on how good the research we happen to have here, if you were in another community and nobody had research or it just wasn't their way of thinking, then it'd be plain sailing for you.
No, that's not the case. As we go through the environment, preparing the environmental impact, there is statutory guidelines out there that we have to follow and adhere to on all the various chapters, and is it national and EU guidance that we have to demonstrate that we comply with in compiling all of the data. So it's not just a case that we're just saying, well, give us what you have. We have to look for everything, document everything. There is standards that we have to adhere to, and that is verified then by either the council or our work Canada, and we need to submit a robust application for any development.
Sorry, just to continue, you've got 4 sites set up.
Well, no, that's only my experience from this stage. So there's Bordona, I think it's 7 or 8 operational wind farms in Ireland at the moment. The ones I've been directly involved in, we've got about 4.
Is there any site that you have passed and got going that's similar to ours?
Not in acreage sites, and this would be one of the smaller sites that we brought forward. And the other sites.
What's the closest?
It's probably 900 acres, which was the Crown Green wind farm. I think the other sites are a lot bigger. No, they're about 1,300 hectares, I think.
Where are the closest sites that you have developed?
Sorry?
Where are the closest sites?
That we have operational. So there's Durnlough
That's
wind
like
farm.
us. That's like us.
That we could visit.
Clann wind farm is open to the public. There's 21 turbines there, 170 metre tip heights. 4 kilometres away from that is Mount Lucas wind farm, also open to the public. There's 28 turbines there, 150 metre tip height. There's Sleep-On wind farm in Roscommon. That's 130 metres. They're smaller turbines because they're on a, well, I call it a mountain, but I think it's technically a hill. They're 130. Our other ones then are back in Onini in Mayo, and they're, I think, 175 metre tip height.
They're not though, that's I'm right to say it's the one between Clough and Burr.
Yes, there's 2 developments there.
Because you're saying 130 because it's on a hill, but the ones in Sleep-On are there years. Like the technology is increasing all the time, the turbines are getting bigger.
Yes,
How tall are the ones in Durnlough?
So the ones in Durnlough are 185 metres. The ones in Sleep-On are 130, and they're there since 2017.
They're the ones we can see from here.
Yeah, 30 kilometres away. See them clearly.
Can I ask about the approved roads? Were they done by local authorities or centrally through them?
So Sleep-On wind farm went into Roscommon County Council and subsequent to An Bord Pleanála. All the other developments went straight to An Bord Pleanála. They were strategic infrastructure developments.
So you would need 8 on this site, if I'm correct, and it's going to Dublin.
We need which?
8. You need 8 turbines.
Well, we need either 25 turbines or 50 megawatts. The output has to be greater than 50 megawatts. Now, the more modern, say if you take Mount Lucas wind farm, which was built in 2014, them turbines are 3.2 megawatt output, and the more recent ones on the market now are 6-7 megawatts. They're bigger machines, so we need less of them to get the same output.
You need 8, I think 8 or 9 when your colleague said.
Yeah, to get to 50. So if they're 7 megawatts, yes.
Basically, you need 8 turbines to go up in this site for the decision to leave Roscommon County Council to head to Dublin. The Roscommon County Council will go from being a decision maker to a submission body like all the other. Yeah, like everything to stand in line.
Yeah, and that's the planning group that's in place that we have to follow.
But it's fair to say if Roscommon reject it, I'm sure you'll go straight to.
Well, it would be, we'd have to consider it based on if it was reviewed, what reviews it
Is
was,
there
any
anything
converted.
anything that's been rejected by local authority that you left it then? Or have you
Our
appealed all of
projects,
them?
anything I've been involved in, haven't gone to the local authority. I wasn't involved in Sleep-On the time it was.
But even if it does go to Roscommon, they'd reject it. Which
yeah, the
I
Sleep-On,
imagine it will because it
that
says it's
would have been brought on board.
What happens if the government of Ireland decide that it's not safe to build here because of other constraints? I'm thinking of the Department of Defence.
Yeah, so
specifically.
aviation, Department of Defence, that all has to be assessed as part of the project. There are also statutory consultee that have to feed into the planning process as well.
So if
that
the
has to be
Minister of
looked at.
Defence said that it wasn't permissible, is that the end of the project?
Well, it's our intention to lodge a plan application.
If the Minister of Defence says it's not, it cannot be built here, is that the end of the project?
That would be a matter for the government to decide then, because it would be the environment versus.
Or would you still go for a planning application with on Commission Planola?
They'd have to object.
So the government of Ireland, elected by the people of Ireland, cannot stop this project.
That's not what we're saying.
That's the planning,
No, that's not what we're saying.
it's the planning system we're following, it's not
Yeah.
planning unusual.
Yeah, there's statutory stakeholder.
I'm thinking of the security of the state.
Yeah. There's statutory stakeholder, once we go up to scoping with all the various statutory stakeholders, we'll be discussing with them what the constraints
So you
are.
engage them about the air ambulance flight paths and things like that?
Yeah, we have to,
And
yeah.
would that be a red flag if they said, no, you're going building it right on our flight path in half the country? Would that change anything?
The way we'd be probably dealing with them is, can both coexist? And what can we do to allow you to do what you need to do, and what we...
Because it's very likely that Costume Barracks at some stage in the near future will be the Army headquarters.
Yeah, okay.
I think maybe if we have any more questions, we can submit them in writing through Amanda here maybe. And,
It's important as well that everybody writes their name, because I'm guessing, does that have any bearing of, there's 150 people here in the room that say we're not in favour? Is there any point? Like you've asked, the questionnaires are handed out, but I don't think too many being filled in. No.
Well, the question, feedback forms are available to the 30th of January for submission. People will have the opportunity to make the submission on the project when it is lodged. In terms of the signatures and that's purpose of that is that we can provide literature to people if we need to follow up with stuff. And then we're also obligated to produce a community report as part of that application to demonstrate how we engage with the public. Under GDPR, we don't attach the sign-in sheets or anything to that.
Maybe I should ask.
Okay, but community.
Maybe I should ask, is there anybody here in favour of the project?
I work for Bordenona, but I'm here on behalf of SSE and Bordenona. No. No, it's on Bordemona's Gael in Cornafulla. Yes. Bordenona owned the Cornafulla box. They do, yes. It would have been CPO back in the 1940s, 1950s, as part of our direct...
It was actually in 1965, but Bordenona owned it, they registered to this new company 2 years ago. So it's in their ownership. The CP audit of the people in 1965 and 1966, the Craig on Cornafulla Bog area, and they re-registered from Bordenona to this new company 2 years ago, and it's registered there. Anyway, look, I just asked a question here, I'm not sure. So was there anybody here in favour of the project? So that's just something to take away with you here. Yeah. Sorry, yeah.
One of my truck properties belonged to me. No authority that pestered my mother week after week, often for 20 euros for a buck. So finally, my son and the brother were working. So left a note with my mother. They'd work on an 8 down near Gael. They have a place down there. Some below Valley Corn. So I went down and I met a clear to run from Borden to the rest of the 20 euros. And leave my mother alone. But I was over here later. They registered my dog. So what a nuisance to that one?
Well, the compulsory acquired it, so they took Bob from me as well. I was in the same position. They gave us £25 an acre at the time. So they gave us £25 an acre, compulsory acquired it from us. So they took it against our will.
Yeah,
but
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but look at that's done and dusted now. It's registered in this new.
It's not done and dusted.
Well, there's only getting back of it.
took out to stop that taken over by the state. Because it was, BnM was being run by the state. So the state said, oh yeah, go ahead, check him. He doesn't need it, he's not working. So that's what is going on. So I do represent BnM. One part, my name is George Moore, from the EMP's room. To transfer back my property that they interfered with.
Yeah, I'll take your name and details after, and I'll follow up with we have a different team within the company that manages land queries, so I'll take your details and
That's
follow
why
up.
I'm here tonight.
Yeah, look, I'll take the details separately, and I'll pass it on to the relevant team.
I think everybody hopes George will get it back as well. Everybody hopes that you will get it back.
If they're compulsory took you along, now is the time to put your claim on the back again. BnM was going to make millions out of this along with DSP. If you or me can get nothing out of it.
Only shadows. Yeah, and our broken briquettes took too. I'm very sad after the briquettes. I love the briquettes. I love the briquette factory. I don't care. I love the briquette factory, and he took the briquettes as well.
Look,
sorry, we imported in Poland big old trucks of briquettes.
Sorry, look, we're not important.
No.
Our mandate was to deliver energy for the state, and that's what we did for 78 years through peat harvesting. Unfortunately, peat harvesting has ceased in the country. And we have exited briquettes, we have exited peat production, and our
But they're
focus on
bringing it in from
renewables.
Poland. That's what I'm saying to you. Why couldn't you let the people here live out their lives, have their bogs, have their turf, have their little briquettes, and then when we all die out, you can do what you want, really, the sun, whatever, stars.
Look, I hear what you're saying, and we're here tonight to talk about Cornafulla, but I can talk to you separately about that after.
Well,
If
fires is the only thing we have, or just hopefully.
If anybody else has a question, I suppose, give it to Amanda here and then send it on to the people. But I'd like to thank the people.
They're actually here. Sorry. Just two questions, and they kind of came in. It's just for the benefit of people who came in a little bit later tonight. Again, could you tell us what weight, on average, are these turbines?
I don't have the weight of the turbine.
Okay. And would the materials that you're excavating, the peat and the subsoil, what are your plans for that?
So that would actually be managed through the EIA. There's typically a peat management plan that would accompany the EIA, and that would detail that.
Left on site.
Yeah. Typically, you try to reuse as much as possible.
Sorry, you said they're on the lifespan of these around 30 to 35 years, is that correct?
Yeah, typically that's what they're planning the timeline.
What happens after that?
So you either decommission them or
Yeah, that's the question. Are they going to be an eyesore then?
no, you have to set out a draft decommissioning plan as part of the environmental impact assessment. So either you decommission them or you go back for planning to extend the lifetime of
And just decommission means taking
Take the turbines down, the infrastructure down.
But you had a decommissioning plan in 2017 for Cornafulla Bog. You said you were going to re-vet it, and you didn't. And all of the industrial brownfield sites, as you like to call it, is still there. So can we have any confidence in 30 years that they'll be taken down?
If decommissioning is part of the planning conditions for the site, so it's set out on an application.
That's the current regulations. So BnM exited the peat processing industry. What are your plans strategically around the retention of your ownership of the wind turbines before it gets moved on to the next company, who may or may not, I guess, honour any agreements that are in place for decommissioning and so on?
But it's not a case that we have to honour it. Firstly, it's our intention to build, develop and operate these developments on our land bank. We do have joint venture partners like with SSE, but ultimately they're on board BnM sites. Any decommissioning plans or anything like that, they're not a commitment, they're in planning applications, and they have to be honoured. Likewise, any obligations we have on community funding are set out in government legislation. Any near neighbour agreements or anything that we issue to residents as part of the €1,000 I mentioned earlier, and they're all legally binding contracts that the residents sign into for 15 years.
But I guess you can understand why people might be concerned. When people had their land CPO'd by a semi-state body back in the day, they didn't expect an international commercial entity like SSE to be now suddenly keen on that bog. So, you know, look, we're going to try and stop it happening anyways, but that's another worry, is in 30 years' time, as Dave was saying, what's going to happen with it? Like, you know,
we have
commercial
kids.
body, have they any incentive to go in and restore that site, which will cost millions and millions to do? Can't have any confidence.
We'd be obliged by...
But will you still be BnM? You know, it's BnM SSE, like, that's the point. There was an obligation on the company when BnM was established
Yeah,
to decommission the site you have now.
We put in bonds with the county council. We have to pay as a company, county council, enough money that if we dissolve as an entity, that they have the money to take down the wood farm. as a decommissioning.
And restore.
Would you be decommissioning all of the existing peat extraction sites, all the railway lines and everything that
Yeah,
goes
so
with
under
that?
our IPCC licence we have to decommission all the infrastructure associated with the peat production, and that work is ongoing across the company. We do have 80,000 hectares of a land bank that has to be done across, so that is being done by a different team that are not here tonight, where we do have to lift the railway tracks, decommission, the huts, everything that was part of that. That work is ongoing.
And can you use that infrastructure needs to be decommissioned? Can that be used to enable you to build the turbines in the meantime?
Well, not in terms of building the actual turbine, but you
But
know,
say
railway beds have been used to create amenity walkways, etc. And the infrastructure will be very different to the infrastructure that's needed for a wind farm.
Can the entire development be sold and get back?
Sorry?
Can BnM sell the entire development and get back?
It's not our intention to sell it.
No, but can.
Can.
It's not our intention to sell it.
But can you sell it?
You can sell anything.
Yeah, but
It's not our
it's a
intention to
semi-state
sell it.
body. Most of the semi-states were sold off anyway, so it could be sold.
No, it's not our intention to sell it. It's our intention to build, develop and operate this development.
Are you still a semi-state body?
Yes, we're a commercial semi-state.
Are you a PLC?
Yes.
Private limited company?
We're
Public
more a
limited
PLC,
company?
but this project has been developed by Cornafulla Wind Farm DAC, which is the joint venture between SSE and BnM.
So you're a designated
Private
activity.
Yes, all of our developments are set up in their own right as designated activity companies, and that's to do with financials, tradings. They all have to trade independently.
What legal entity has the folio now for Cornafulla Bog?
The legal entity, the land is owned by BnM PLC.
And what's the name of the DAC?
Cornafulla Wind Farm DAC.
And that's a designated
Activity
company
company, yes, same as
specifically
limited.
for that development.
Specifically for this
And for the
development.
operation and continued
Yes.
operation and maintenance of that
Yeah.
site for the foreseeable future. Okay.
You're only talking about solar panels. You're not talking about solar panels,
No, no.
It's just wind farm zero.
Yeah.
Who's all over the solar panels?
Sorry?
Who's over the solar panels? Is BnM supposed to put in solar panels if that's excluded?
Are you talking about like a solar farm or
Solar
the
farms,
community
yeah.
solar project?
Solar farms, yeah.
Yeah, we have one solar farm in conjunction with the joint venture with ESB operational in Timahoe in Kildare, and we have one proposed for Blackwater.
If you didn't get wind farm here, would you be looking to see could you get solar there?
I don't know that at this stage. I don't know. The intention is to seek permission for a wind farm.
Can I just ask on the follow-up point on the we were talking about extraction? Driving in and out on the drum wash road, it appears some of it has been re-wetted. Now, I know you said at the start of the meeting you don't have to fully dry for the turbines to run, but surely some of that water will need to be taken out. Where is it going? Is it going to go into the Shannon, thereby impacting on flood plains that are already flooded? Where is that water going?
The hydrology assessment?
Yeah, that would be assessed as part of the flood risk assessment. And then if there was a risk of flooding, mitigation would be built into the design.
Why is it re-wetting the wash road which are going to stop it going to dry out? What's the problem with re-wetting the wash road?
It's not.
There was ESB lines to overpump the bog when it was in operation. They've been turned off despite the water levels rising.
I think we should leave it at that there, where, thank the team here for answering as much as possible.
Yeah, and thank you to everyone who was home and giving up their evening. Thanks very much.
Well, I hope you come back with the answers to many questions that we have as well. hope to meet you back here again. Anybody here that wants to be in the WhatsApp group locally, just give your names to Michael or Amanda maybe there. Yeah, so just someone holds on to their, they're not in the WhatsApp group. So, thanks very much.